Meanwhile, the Biden administration is now saying that the federal thrift fund should not invest in Chinese-owned companies. We've been reporting this for now a year. It's after several warnings from Republican lawmakers. The Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board writing a letter to the GOP senators, quote, "We agree it is unfitting for Americans to invest in companies from China or elsewhere that undermine U.S. national security." Joining me right now is Gatestone Institute senior fellow and author of The Coming Collapse of China and the Great U.S.-China Tech War, Gordon Chang. Gordon, it's great to have you. Thanks very much for being here this morning. We've talked about this thrift savings plan. This is a defined contribution plan for U.S. civil service employees and retirees, as well as members of the uniformed services. So you've got government employees investing their 401k money in this mutual fund window that it opened in June that will allow them to invest in Chinese companies tied to the Chinese Communist Party. And Gordon, I know you share my concern about this. I've said this many times. How on earth would we allow government employees, including the very military men and women who may very well have to go to combat against CCP, invest in the very companies that could be those companies leading the effort to replace the United States as the #1 superpower? Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that was hideous. And, you know, for a time, there were companies on the Commerce Department's entity list which Americans couldn't invest in, but which the world's largest pension fund, which is what you just referred to, the thrift savings plan is part of it, they could invest in those companies. There's another issue, Maria, though, because there are other Chinese companies that are not designated by the Commerce Department. And these are in mutual funds. They're in index funds. And the question is whether the United States will allow investment into those other Chinese companies. And those other Chinese companies, although they may not be designated, do support the Chinese military. So there's this additional issue here.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. There are 35 Chinese companies already in international funds. That is the MSCI index, the EAFE index, and some of these companies have already been sanctioned. But Larry Fink and the globalists out there want to be able to invest in these companies, despite the fact that the CCP wants to overtake the United States as the #1 superpower. I'll just point out this. These companies should be excluded by law. But we don't have legislation that's going to do that. So we have this letter to these senators. Do you think this is going to result in any change in the federal thrift fund and what it can invest in?
There will be some change, but certainly not enough change. China has this doctrine of civil-military fusion, which means that the Chinese military has access to whatever any civilian company has. So if it's a tech company, clearly the Chinese military are going to use that tech, which means Americans can invest in those Chinese tech companies and the military in China can take advantage of it. So there needs to be a further prohibition of investment into any Chinese company, not just companies that are on the Commerce Department's entity list.
Yeah, one source tells me they only want to expel the OFAC-sanctioned companies. What about the 490 entity list companies and other sanctions lists? Treasury keeps OFAC list to only 69 companies when it should be actually hundreds of companies who are tied to the CCP. We're going to keep a spotlight on this issue. It's important, and investors need to understand these companies don't even follow the auditing rules of the United States. Some of them are already sanctioned, and they're may very well be in your portfolio. Let me get your take on Amazon and Apple. They're the latest American technology giants pulling back operations in China. Gordon, Amazon announced plans to close its Kindle bookstore in China, halting sales of Kindle devices to retailers in the country. And Apple says it will move some of its iPad production to Vietnam after the supply chain disruption caused by China's COVID lockdowns, Gordon. I know that China represents this huge growth story for so many people in corporate America, but do you think little by little some of these companies are getting it, that the CCP operates with bad behavior and are also committing human rights abuses?
Well, companies are getting it, but slowly. This decision by Amazon follows decisions by Microsoft's LinkedIn Airbnb, and Yahoo to pull some of their operations out of China. But the more significant development is the Apple one. And the reason is that Apple is thought to be the company with the most difficult to move supply chain. And Apple, despite all of that, has moved it, even though the lockdowns in Shanghai and Beijing are easing. And that really means that Apple has made a decision that for long-term reasons, not just the short-term ones this year, but for the long-term reasons, China is not a good place to manufacture. So there's some progress here, but obviously a lot more needs to be done because a number of companies are still in China when they shouldn't be for various reasons, including the ones you just mentioned in that first segment, which is, look, we're supporting a Chinese military there.
Well, I'm told that from the start of this administration, the CCP wanted two things. They wanted the Biden administration to overturn the China initiative, where the U.S. government, the DOJ, was investigating intellectual property theft, and they wanted the tariffs removed. Joe Biden has already rolled over on the Chinese initiative. The China initiative is gone. We are no longer investigating what is in plain sight intellectual property theft. And now the deputy U.S. trade representative is saying that all options remain on the table on the administration's China tariff review, saying that the agency is looking to address long-term challenges from China and, quote, getting a tariff structure that really makes sense. The president says he's considering removing some of the tariffs imposed on Beijing, which were imposed during the Trump administration, Gordon. Are we going to see the further rolling over for the CCP by Joe Biden and removing those China tariffs? And he'll do so saying that he's trying to make a difference on inflation.
Yeah, I think that that's the drift of what we're seeing from administration officials. The story here is those tariffs were imposed under Section 301 as a remedy for the theft of U.S. intellectual property. China has not stopped that theft. In fact, it's ramped up theft of U.S. IP, which means that we need a tariff structure which is like 1,000% tariffs if we're going to stop the Chinese from stealing hundreds of billions of dollars of U.S. future. And this means somewhere like $600 billion, perhaps, of IP theft every single year. So this situation is unsustainable. The tariffs are not high as they should be, but Biden's going to roll them back from all indications we've seen.
Yeah, well, corporate America knows all about it. They have settled a number of cases with Chinese companies, and then you're not supposed to discuss it. Gordon, thanks very much. We will keep following all of that. Great to get your insights as always, Gordon. Thank you. Gordon Chang joining us this morning.